In just 9 minutes, discover 10 brutal takeaways from Stephan and Selby's explosive talk with Ben Mallah on the Iced Coffee Hour, including why you'd be insane to buy property in 2025, how most people stay poor by choice, and the real estate crash no one is talking about. Takeaway 1. It's stupid to buy for 5% return. Ben Mallah makes it brutally clear that buying real estate in 2025, under current conditions, would be financially insane. He says it flat out. Who wants to own a $50 or $100 million asset for a 5% return? According to Ben, the math just doesn't work anymore. Interest rates are hovering around 7% or higher, while most commercial properties are priced to deliver a 5% return. That means you're borrowing expensive money to buy something that pays less than it costs to own. In his words, you're too underwater, you idiot. Back when interest rates were 4%, you could borrow cheap, earn a decent spread, and build wealth. Now with high rates and inflated prices, there's no upside unless you're desperate to complete a 1031 exchange or blindly gambling on future appreciation. The old tricks don't work anymore. Even worse, these overpriced assets come with heavy liabilities. Maintenance, staff, insurance, and taxes, all for zero or even negative cash flow. Ben emphasizes that institutional buyers are still active because they're not spending their own money. But individual investors, they're setting themselves up to bleed. For example, a multifamily property generating $600,000 a year in net income used to be worth $10 million when borrowing was cheap. Now with that same income and expensive loans, it should trade for $7 million or less, but sellers won't admit it yet. So if you're thinking about buying real estate in 2025, think again. As Ben puts it, it's just stupid. Now let's move to the next takeaway. Takeaway 2, the market is in a dangerous pause. Ben Mallah explains that real estate is at a standstill. He says, you can't even sell it to break even. Many sellers are holding onto properties even when they are underwater, hoping that interest rates will drop and values will bounce back. But Ben warns this is a fantasy. The reality is that commercial loans are coming due, and many owners can't refinance because of high interest rates and low rental income. This is especially true for newly built properties that never got the returns expected. Ben describes it as the music having to stop soon. The banks will eventually have to admit the loans are worth less and force these properties onto the market, possibly at steep discounts. For example, if an apartment building was bought when interest rates were low and it made money then, now with higher rates it might lose money every month, and the owner is just praying things improve instead of cutting losses. Now let's move to the next takeaway. Takeaway 3, real estate prices are stuck, not falling. In the podcast, Ben Mallah talks about why prices are not dropping as fast as they should. He says that even though interest rates are up and deals don't cash flow, prices are still being held up artificially. The reason is that many sellers are not ready to admit the real value of their properties is much lower now. They would rather sit on empty buildings than sell at a loss. He also points out that banks are not forcing sales because they don't want to show bad loans on their balance sheets. This delay tactic, he says, will eventually explode, and then we'll see a flood of properties coming down in price. For example, Ben mentions home developers who started projects when rates were low and are now turning entire neighborhoods into rentals because they can't sell the homes profitably. Now let's move to the next takeaway. Takeaway 4, right now is a time to lowball. Ben says he's out there every day making offers 25% below asking. He calls it lowballing but adds, there's no offending in business. His team uses detailed underwriting to calculate what price makes sense. If the deal doesn't work at that number, he moves on. He's not trying to rip people off, but he won't overpay. Sellers who don't accept reality can keep their properties. Ben gives an example where he negotiated $500,000 off the price of a deal by pointing out the building needed capital improvements. If the numbers make sense, he'll buy. If not, he'll walk. Now let's move to the next takeaway. Takeaway 5, being emotional in deals makes you broke. Throughout the episode, Ben Mallah stresses that real estate is not personal, it's just numbers. He says, I've done deals with crooks, but as long as the deal made sense, I did it. Whether he likes someone or not doesn't matter. All that matters is how much money is coming in, how much is going out, and what the risks are. He mocks the idea of selling based on someone's story, like someone saying they worked out at the gym for 18 years and dreamed of owning it. He says unless the price is right, the story means nothing. For example, a lady once refused to sell him a second building because she found out he made money on the first one. He calls that kind of thinking stupid and emotional. We're halfway through the video. Thanks for sticking with us. If you're enjoying it, hit the thumbs up and share it in your WhatsApp groups. If you'd like to support us, please tap the thanks button below. It helps us keep making great content. Drop a comment and don't forget to hit subscribe for more. Now let's continue with the video. Takeaway 6. Most people screw up money by being soft. Ben talks openly about how most people stay poor because they don't treat money seriously. He says you got to train your brain to do positive things with money. He criticizes people who drive flashy cars but have no savings. He explains that real wealth is about making good decisions, like buying a property, fixing it up, raising rents, and selling it for a profit. People who buy Lamborghinis while living paycheck to paycheck, he says, are just playing rich, not getting rich. For example, he once consulted with a guy who owned a Lamborghini but didn't have $50,000 in savings. Ben told him to sell the car and get his life in order. Now let's move to the next takeaway. Takeaway 7. Most poor people stay poor by choice. Ben does not believe poverty is always someone else's fault. He says, if you've got a brain, you can do something with your life. He points out that in America, anyone can get a real estate license for a few $100s, use FHA loans, and start buying properties with very little money down. The tools are there, but people are too busy partying, chasing distractions, or making excuses. He says the system works if you use it. For example, he told someone who couldn't afford a down payment to become a real estate agent, buy a house, and use their commission as the down payment, which reduced their upfront cost to almost nothing. Now let's move to the next takeaway. Takeaway 8. The government needs to leave 1031 alone. Ben says the 1031 exchange rule is the only reason he was able to grow from nothing to owning $500 million in assets. This rule lets you sell real estate and defer taxes by reinvesting in another property. Without it, he says, he would have had to pay taxes every time he sold, and that would have killed his ability to grow. He calls it the engine of capitalism. It pushes investors to keep reinvesting, which creates jobs and keeps the economy moving. For example, he estimates he'd owe around $50 million in taxes today if he didn't use 1031s. But thanks to this system, he's been able to keep buying and expanding instead. Now let's move to the next takeaway. Takeaway 9. Focus on safe income, not risky assets. Right now, Ben Mallah is shifting money out of hotels and retail properties and into safer options like tax-free municipal bonds. He says that even if the return is a little lower, it is stable and comes without headaches. Managing hotels means constant work, staff, maintenance, and risk. With bonds, he can sit back and still earn. He says, I'd take a little less money for not having the responsibility. He compares taxable returns from real estate to tax-free returns from bonds and often chooses the safer path. For example, if a hotel gives him 6%, but he pays 37% tax, the actual income is lower than a 5% bond that is tax-free. Now let's move to the last takeaway. Takeaway 10. Kids need to be raised around hunger. Ben shares how he raised his own kids to be money-hungry and hard-working. He pulled one of his sons out of college because he was partying and made him manage an apartment complex at age 19. The son ended up thriving. He believes kids follow what they see, so he showed them the value of work. Even his youngest son, who grew up with money, is now interested in stocks and helps out with real work. Ben says, they remember being dirt poor, and that stuck with them. For example, during a hurricane, his youngest son was out pressure washing and shoveling sand because that's just how the family operates. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support this channel, hit the thanks button below. It really helps us keep going. If you enjoyed this summary, please leave a like and share it in your WhatsApp groups. To join discussion about this video, drop a comment below. And for more videos like this, hit the subscribe button below.